Hakuna. Where's everybody else? Let's nudge them. Let's get them on. Welcome, Shaq. Welcome, Zarina Auntie. Welcome, Dipali. Welcome, Karan. Welcome, Devki. Hina, any other communications?
Not yet. So a couple of people have said they can't. Alpa can't. Sono and Bhavnish can't. Bhavna will be watching on recording. Priya will watch on recording and Azmina on recording. There's quite a few people missing.
What did Sono and Bhavnish say?
Watch it on recording. They're traveling.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, a very, very warm welcome. The sounds you hear in the background is exactly a little bit of what it's going to look like. This is what the teams look like. This is the excitement and celebration we expect to see at a camp. So you guys got to be ready to engage in a little bit of the dance. All right, I'm going to pause there for a second with an awesome pose, and we will go into today's session. I just want to kick off, first of all, welcoming you all on. Thank you, all of you that are on. We have a few people still joining in on the waiting room. We are 4 minutes past, so it does help if we can join these calls just on time going forward so that we really know and are ready to prepare for these calls. Today's call is a completely informal call. It's being run much earlier than we normally start because we don't need to start this early. But I do know in London, we've already kicked off with an epic track yesterday that completely counts towards our training. And we are going to be having many more such tracks. And we do really want to have as many of you as ready as possible. And we have had our first very successful launch in a long time, in the sense that we have a lot of you commit early on. And so we're going to start off on 24th August. And the good news I want to let all of you guys know is that we are now having discussed and planned and mapped out logistics. We're at a point where we want to make sure we get a balance of size, and we also maintain the quality team experience, the family experience, where people get to know each other. So what does that mean for us? It means we are going to cap numbers. So any of you that have any of yours sitting on the fence, we formally have 4 places remaining to allow people to join. We have had about 3 or so verbal commitments from the weekend, but we're now going to have to cap this off. What will that mean? We're going to open the next one for 2024, or we may do another one in 2023. That said, we're going to encourage as many of you to stay and be part of this summit in case we do launch a second one. But you will have some of your training webinars together, and really excited to connect with you all that you join here. And what we will also do when we are going is peak season. We do have high demand for multiple things on the ground, and I cannot emphasize to you guys how much effort we put in terms of making this a very memorable, quality, and I want to say somewhat luxury, but it is a luxury experience. And luxury in the sense that we want there still to be an aspect, an element of adventure. And you will have stuff that will break down. You will have stuff that will not go exactly as planned. You will have stuff that will not go according to what you might be used to for those of you coming from the Western world. We have a very global community coming together. We have people from other parts of Africa, people from India, people from the US, people from the UK. We may have people coming from Australia. So it'll be a real amazing opportunity to connect with this global community. We're going to have young people, students, pupils, maybe people who are about 12, 13 years old who are on the fence and contemplating joining, as well as people in their 70s who are going to be with us. So far, right now, the eldest is probably in their 70s. we may have somebody in the 80s join. So, be ready for a very diverse group of people that are coming together. What's our job as team leaders? We are really leading, and we are creating, with a lot of psychology involved, a phenomenal transformative experience. And so this is a process we've done time after time. We've refined it. And this program works to have people, firstly, overcome some of the hurdles that they have even before they get there. And why are we having this launch webinar today? It's because I really want to acknowledge you guys that we have begun, and you guys are in, and to really buckle your seatbelts. What the mind will do, the mind's job is to protect the body. The mind's job is to seek certainty. But certainty, comfort, familiarity are the nemesis, are the opposite of adventure. And so adventure is going to have a lot of unknown. Adventure is going to have a lot of surprises, even surprises for us as leaders. And I recall when we invited somebody, when we were doing our first leadership summit, I was dealing with a lot of questioning. Who am I to do this? What do I know? I'm no celebrity mountaineer. I've just done this mountain once as a big overweight guy. And so we went to other people that used to run this program. There was another group of people that used to do this program. It was a $10,000 program that people from the UK used to go on for. It was an epic program. And one of their co-leaders, a guy based in the UK, said, first thing he came on the call, and I was here for him to get my team excited for the quality we're creating. And the first thing he started to do is he went on the screen, and he's a big, I think he's a ex-Ghanaian or ex-Nigerian guy, but he's a British guy now. And he comes on, he says, first thing I want to tell you guys, this is not a 5-star experience. And I'm like, oh man, this guy's like killing it for me. And he says, this is not a 5-star experience. Do not go to Africa expecting a 5-star experience. And he says, you go to Africa and you're going to get 6-star experience. You're going to get a 6-star experience in Africa, but you're going to get the African 6-star experience, which is you've got to really get connected to and build an inner appreciation of the people, of the culture, of where they're coming from, and what it is they do to really be able to deliver to you and bring to you an amazing experience. And when I say this to you guys, I've taken people from Kenya or other parts of Africa who come to Tanzania, and I somewhat dealt with this thinking, hey, I'm from Africa. In Africa, I understand how, the African services or the African culture is. And boy, was I wrong. Boy, did I have a lot of stereotyping subconsciously in my mind. We've had Kenyan came last year, and she just crossed the border, 5-hour drive, and she was blown away by the people and the interaction and the depth of relatedness we create and who they are for us and how they are with us. And so I really invite all of you guys to come with a real open mind, with clear expectations, regardless of what any background you might have to the region or to Africa or having done similar mountains. And I'm even going to say, even if you've done this before with us, clean slate your perception of what it entails. The guys that we have on screen are two of the most experienced guides. The guy on the left is a guy called Julius John White. You might see him on social media as well. He is a celebrity. He's come down here to speak at Kensington Olympia. He is head of the Kilimanjaro Guides Association. So all the guides have an association, and all those guides have a head of it. And this is a guy who's been head of that for a number of years. And depending on his term, he may or may not be when we go out there. You have porters. Porters also have their Kilimanjaro Porters Association. They also have their own leaders and guides. You have Kilimanjaro Rangers, people on the mountain that are recruited by the national park to take care of us. There's various calibers of people there. And then there's Bryson, the guy on the right. The guy on the right is somebody who I did my first summit with this company. We've worked with different providers, and he is silent. He is passionate about the mountain. He is the definition of stealth. He doesn't talk too much, but he is somebody who gets the job done. And at the same time, he has a phenomenal story on his first experience on Kilimanjaro. He has phenomenal hurdles he's overcome to get there. He's tried to run away from that mountain because he thought he was going to die the first time. And he's had the guy on the left, which is Julius, go back and get him from his home and say, no, 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 you built for this mountain. And brought him back and rebaptized him into becoming a mountain guide. And now they can't live without it. They can't imagine life without the mountain. So we're going to meet some amazing people. But I really want to kick off just by acknowledging and knowing that for us to take on such a feat, it is because we are standing upon the shoulders of giants like these. So, respect, there's a term we say on the mountain, it's called maximum respect. And you'll hear the guides shout out the word maximum and you respond respect. And we're going to practice that a lot along our treks. We're going to discover that on the mountain. And it is paramount importance that we really connect to these guys with a lot of respect. They are definitely my gurus, and I've learned a lot about life and humanity from these mountain guides and porters. There's a beautiful quote by Dalai Lama, the first part of which is why we do our health programs. Really want to have people prioritize their well-being early on in their life and not leave it too much later on. And the second part of the quote is why we do our adventure. It's why I really want human beings to get connected to that we are earthlings and we live on this earth. And when I first did this mountain at the age of 34, I had to pause for a second and think about my dad, and I got very emotional. And my dad at the time was probably he was turning 70, 69, turning 70. And I look back at his life, and he's somebody who's been very successful financially and also lost a lot of it financially. And despite all his material gain, he never had experienced earth. He's never seen or been to certain parts of this earth. His life was typically walking in and out of the building called the shop, or many others would have work or their business or whatever. And they spend years doing that till they retire at 65. And he was my dad. He was retiring at the time. And he's not really seen the world. And then we pass away from this material journey called life, and we begin to question, what did that all mean? And I was so emotionally moved when I got to see and experience what I experienced, that the first person I could think of is my dad. And I'm like, I would so love Dad to experience this kind of a journey. And I was very emotional about it. And fast forward a few years, last year at age 76, Dad came up the mountain. He didn't summit to the top. He got up to day 3,720 meters, which was phenomenal. As a 76-year-old who hadn't intentionally walked more than 3 or 4 kilometers in his life till the age of 70 when he did his first FITBANKER challenge. And there he was, now he does 15 to 20 kilometer treks. And he went up 3 days on this mountain with his grandsons, with his 20-month-old Soham, who went up to 2,700 meters. Kanea, the earlier year, went up to 4,000 meters, a bit higher than his granddad. And I'm really grateful that, my family, I've gotten them to experience and see beautiful parts of this world, but just different texture of this earth. By that, I mean there are parts of this world that have different landing ground, different terrain, different types of rocks, different types of trees. You could question whether it's, from the scene or set of a movie that's trying to show us Mars. It is truly out of this world. So you will see parts of nature that you've never experienced before. And Dalai Lama says, man is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present, the result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he's never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. This is something I've done with my wife, and those of you that are hearing my story about my dad, if it's something you want to do with a family member, it is truly a memorable experience to experience this beauty together. And if you do want them to join you on this particular one, then you'll have to let us know mega ASAP. This is our 9-year-old girl, Dia, who's now 12 years old as a trek leader. And on this mountain, she did this. There she is on screen. And as a 9-year-old girl, she took on this mountain. And she took on this mountain, signing up to do it with Jag, who is coming again to do it with us alone. And Jag has done it with Dia. And she was really missing her dad, Sunny at the time. And there were multiple parts of this mountain and the climb where we had to, she was missing Dad. And we had to convert the challenges, we had to convert the setbacks, we had to convert what looked like obstacles into games and convert those games into triumphs, into great success stories. And we learn a lot from those of you that are parents will know that when we figure out how we can create games and bring play to overcoming hurdles with our kids, we can also do that with adults. In fact, some of the kids are our best teachers in teaching us how human psychology works. And many of us will be signing up right now to Kilimanjaro. And after you having signed up, those of you that signed up a month ago, some of you are here having signed up maybe in prior years and you've moved it to this year, you will find that some hurdles come in the way. Even from the day you signed up to now, something might have come up for you as a possible blocker, as a possible suggestion, as a concern. I want to tell you that you will learn about human performance psychology, and you will learn about the performers and the things that take people in performance out of performance. And most of the hurdles are going to be the mountains in our mind. And we go through life, through most areas of our life, whatever it is you want to transform on the summit, whether it's relationships, whether it's parenting, whether it's saying yes to that daughter-in-law or son-in-law, or whether it's leaping from the comfort of that job. Whatever concern will come up for you is a mind-constructed mountain. And we will want you to learn between now and this mountain. And those of us that are trek leaders with FITBANKER or have done Kilimanjaro before are trained to look out for when someone is creating a mentally constructed hurdle. It might be that in life, what you do is you sign up to do things on condition that somebody else joins. You might sign up to do things on condition that you get that new job. You might sign up to do things on condition that that house you're about to purchase, you're waiting to exchange, and that exchange happens before you go, right? There will be multiple things. Or some of us have elderly parents, and those elderly parents may or may not be well. And I'm giving you little examples of exact scenarios people have told us before they've traveled. And some of these things have been in their way, and people have acted despite those concerns, and people have been stopped because of those concerns, right? Many instances, we've had people coming who have a parent in the 80s who's in and out of care home, needing constant care and concern that they may not be able to travel because they don't know if they can commit now because they're not sure if their parent will be around next year. But our intent and our thought has a lot of power, including how we use it on the mountain. You can use that as a positive placebo effect to get us up that mountain and overcome the hurdles that come before we reach there, or we can use that as a negative nocebo effect to get in the way of us going up this mountain. And so part of these webinars are so that we can stay in communication with you, so that we can listen to any blockages you might have and really look at where else in life is that stopping you. Already from when we've signed up to now, we have 1, 2, maybe 3 people that are in the tentative range. And that doesn't concern us. When I started these summits, it used to really concern us. It used to really make me feel, oh my God, this won't be a success. That is botching things up for us. And I'm very clear, because I've seen it happen time after time. Those that are meant to be on that mountain will be on that mountain, because I've seen people walk through the gates of the mountain and 1.5 hours into that walk, get a phone call to say they lost a grandparent and they've had to walk out that mountain and leave. So to that level of degree, I can kind of say there's some destiny and fate to this mountain, but it won't come to you easy. So the first mountain we have to overcome is dealing with whatever will come in the way, logistics-wise, circumstance-wise, conditionalities. We call these conditionalities, and FITBANKER as an organization, our health program, our leadership program, is coaching people on unconditional performance. How can we act without making bad things, negative things, wrong things, the media, any breakout in the world be a negative that stops us? Or is it an obstacle and opportunity for us to expand ourselves to overcome them? And I don't just say this theoretically, we responsibly, legally, and flexibly, instead of when many adventure companies closed down over lockdown, we doubled down. We opened a second summit and a third summit. because if the 15 people booked on could not come for the first one, because these countries were allowing them to fly and those countries weren't, we took 5 people, then we took another 5 people, then we did another summit. And our philosophy underlying that is, if it's legal, if it's safe, if we can adhere to procedure, to testing, to safe measures, whatever we needed to do in preparation for that, we will put that in place. And we did so. And for as long as it was legal, we continued to go ahead with our plans. One of the instances where the whole world was closed down, we moved the date. But in another instance, in 2020 itself, we ran this twice. And there's Hina's photo at the back there, behind her, where we went to summit. We were one of the first groups in 2020, one of the first groups after the world was locked down. And the world closes down because of concern of our well-being. But honestly, guides and porters were more likely to die of starvation and hunger at base, because health wasn't going to kill them first, but poverty would. And they got to feed families and earn income after 6 months of nothing, because we went out there. And it was only a team of 5 or 6, and we took a thank you NHS banner to the top, when we had gone down there. So really want to invite all of you guys to walk the talk of leadership. And we're not just preaching it, we've gone through the journey. And beyond that, we've gone through criticism. We've gone through people calling us labels and names and condemning us, but we're clear from our perspective. If we can follow policy, legality, safety, so much so that if one person got COVID over that time, they couldn't come, right? And the rest of us had to carry on, right? But we didn't do anything reckless. What's the purpose of these calls? We want to connect and know each other. So start to look at each other, look at the names, question who you don't know here. And I would also invite you guys on the Kili chat, if you are connected on social media, where you share a bit about you and your life on social media, please do share it on the WhatsApp group. So following this call today, please share if it's your Instagram handle, your Facebook handle. Allow people here to start to connect with you and get a sense of who you are, where you're from. And if you're a fit banker who's done the Fit Banker Challenge, you will know that we do share what we eat, how we train. And as you're doing that and sharing that on social media, like Harinder and Manjit, they run a marathon a week or something like that. I'm joking. I know it's not that frequent, but they just did one yesterday. But when you see that post of theirs, you'll be inspired and you'll be like, hey, I've got to go. So we get to share progress updates. We get to share training. We get to share nutrition. Any concerns that come up for any of you, we want you to bring them on these calls or bring them to a Kilimanjaro trek leader. The Kilimanjaro trek leaders that are going to be on here, main one is Hina and myself, but we also have Jag and Shak, who are trek leaders, right? Shak is coming, has done Kilimanjaro before, but he's not done a FITBANKER Kilimanjaro before. Jag has done FITBANKER Kilimanjaro with us, but she loved it and she's coming again. And so she's also a go-to person who's got real world experience of our organization and what to expect from the mountain. And Shak is equally very well versed in the mountain and other treks and other hikes and hiking gear. So Hina, Jag, and Shak, please do reach out to any of them if there are any questions. There's also Urvi, who is tentative and more likely than not to be there. And she will also be coming from Kenya as the number of Kenyans join in and increase from there. But any concerns that come up, any questions that you have, please first reach out to them. Reach out to me if you need me, or bring them on these calls when we have these calls. We're going to talk about nutrition, and we're going to talk about something that we use uniquely. It's not unique. Many people do this, but we're one of the few as well that do it, which is we're going to work on the mountain being fueled not so much by glucose. Okay, we're going to talk about that in more detail later. So it will help you to not get used to hiking and trekking with a lot of glucose and high sugary drinks. Instead, what we will use on the mountain is good fats and moderate complex carbs, like oats, like quinoa, and starchy, like potatoes we're going to have, but not very high sugary stuff. We will have fruit, we'll have avocados on the mountain. And so training for the mountain is different from other types of training. So if you're familiar with a very high performance athletics, and you're used to a certain way, you might need to adapt to get used to the mountain so that your digestive system doesn't suddenly get surprised on the mountain. Those of you on a FitBanker challenge, it's very much the FitBanker nutrition. We're not having, it's not keto and it's not very heavy fat, but it is a good balance of the three. Mental prep, we're going to talk about visualization, and we're going to do that in upcoming webinars. And then, of course, you want to gain insight, we're going to meet others who have done Kilimanjaro, and we will at some point also be having our guides on the ground join one of the calls, so you get a sense of them and you get excited. But that will be probably in the last month before we go out there. That's when we will meet them, and we will have more certainty of our exact team. We'll learn a little bit of Kiswahili, which is the language that's spoken there. But one of the main mountain tribes, the mountain herder tribe, is a tribe called Chaga, the Chaga community. And they're also a very business-oriented community. I joke and I say that they're the Sindhis of the mountain. They're very successful where they go across Tanzania. And we will learn a little bit of Kiswahili. They'll be speaking Swahili and English mostly. Our guides are going to be English-speaking guides with a good conversational level of English, and some very good English. And we're going to learn loads of songs on the mountain. Within 7 days, we will definitely learn one song. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Okay, so first off, just want to acknowledge we have how many of us here? And I just want to check, guys, that we have Hina, is there anyone here that you're not clear on the name, if they've joined using a different name to what they've signed up with?
No,
if there's anybody here,
done a register, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, brilliant. So I want us to kick off with a little bit of a stretch. So if you can all get your right hand, just raise your right hand up there. Raise it up there. Can we all see it? Can we all see each other's right hand? Get that right hand and bring it right here in between our shoulder blades. Get your left hand on your elbow and give yourself a nice pat on the back. Very, very big well done on showing up. The first bit, guys, is showing up to these sessions. And the first bit, guys, is showing up by having signed up. And there are some people who've communicated they can't be on today. And like I said, today is not a formal training session. Today is not something where we're giving you technical content around the mountain, but we felt it pertinent that we need to connect with this group to let them know that these guys have proactively signed up in a large number, right? Whatever it is about each of your individual lives or chemistry or planning or the absence of procrastination that you all have in your life, it's definitely had you show up much earlier than we've had in previous years. And we're hoping, similarly, we will begin to grow this way and fill other years through your sharing, because leaders create leaders. And as you train for this, as you prepare for this, you may be able to invite people. We're soon going to waitlist this summit. So if you want people to join you, they may end up being waitlisted if they're not in the first or the next 4. And if they're not, then they will likely have to join a second summit that we open, or they're going to have to join 2024, right? So, but just let them know. It doesn't matter. And please do not create a condition upon which you can only go if so-and-so only goes. We have mentioned that, we have shared in the past that people who came on the last summit with us were meant to come a summit prior and a summit prior, but postponed because family couldn't join, one of them, because they were preparing for their engagement or their wedding and so on. And so they would postpone coming. And then they realized, listen, I'm now 67, I'm not getting any younger. And they decided to join in advance. So they left their family and they came ahead and did it. But in the past, we have seen people not make it because they were waiting for certain circumstances, certain people to be there. So I'd love to get a sense of those who we have on. So if you're not somebody who's joined or shared on a masterclass, please do come on. And as you share, I've got a few questions to ask. I want you guys to introduce yourself, who you are, where you're joining from. And we're going to kick off with speculating around what possible mountains could emerge or erupt before we get to this volcano called Kilimanjaro. It is a volcano, in case you didn't know. And the only person that was ever disappointed was Dia. who was surprised that it was not on fire when we got to the top. And then we let him know it's an inactive volcano. But would love to hear from you guys. So kick off by raising your virtual hands. What could possibly go wrong before arrival? I'd love for you to share some thoughts that you have that, hey, I'm ready for Kili, but this is a concern that this may happen before we go up Kilimanjaro. This might get in my way or our way. Who would like to share? So as you raise your virtual hand, please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're joining from, and start off by telling us your response to this question. Let's go, guys. We got Abba. Let's have a few more hands up, guys. I want to get a few answers at a go. We're going to quickly churn through a number of questions. Let's kick off with Abba. So Abba, let's start. Tell us where you're from.
So, Abha Shroff, I am from Mumbai, India.
Whoop, whoop.
I've done one FITBANKER challenge in Encore twice. And now I've signed up for Kili. I've also signed up to be a FITBANKER coach.
Whoop, whoop.
And may probably coach a challenge in January next year. So what could possibly go wrong before arrival? The one thing that I speculate is falling sick, or maybe something goes wrong with the flights flying in. So maybe we get in a day earlier.
Okay.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay.
I've tried to put all the other obstacles out of place, but.
Okay, got it. So I want to let you know you can fall sick before you come over. Many of us may get some form of flu or something may happen before we come over, but it still doesn't mean it takes us out of this. If we've fallen well 3 weeks before, 4 weeks before, even then we have ample time to recover to go up this mountain. And it's not optimal, but we've had a person start off a cold and a flu on day 1 of this mountain, and he had it right through, and he summited. Wasn't ideal, and of course, unknown to me at the time, but on the mountain, I fell unwell, and when we came down later, I found it was COVID. My oxygen dropped to 63%, and pre-summit night, I got to 80%, and then carried on to summit. But I just want to let you know, yes, you may, and yes, you may not, and that is not a given that it takes you out of the summit. But I just want you guys to empty out of your mind whatever is filling your tank of concerns. Hema?
Hi everyone. I'm Hema. I'm in Milton Keynes, which is in England. It's about 50 miles north of London, just to give everyone a bit of a feel. Yeah, Prakash, my husband, and I are both doing the climb. I am so looking forward to it and meeting you all at that point. But my concern, despite having done the FITBANKER challenge a number of times, and I'm actually coaching in this July challenge, which finishes at the end of this week, I'm still worried that I might not be fit enough. I have an ACL injury, which it just worries me that halfway up the mountain that might kick up, but I really want to do everything I can to be fit enough.
Okay, awesome. Please, Emma, remind me to tell you about BPC 157 to help with your ACL injury recovery. It's a peptide, it's an intelligent peptide that goes to work on repairing tissue, cartilage, ligaments in quite an intelligent manner. And there might be a doctor that could administer it by syringe, but you could also get it as an oral supplement. What else do we do is when we have strain on a particular joint, a particular region, what's important is that we work on developing the muscles, the ancillary muscles that reduce the strain on that joint, on that region. So I have, for the first 7 summits, used to deal with a lot of knee pain, and I always needed knee braces, especially on the way down. Summit number 8 is the first summit I've done with no knee braces, no pain. And one of the biggest things I attribute to that is the Tuesday workouts that we do that are online. I've now specifically designed them such that if anyone's joining those, assuming they're training for Kilimanjaro, I and Vijay Uncle, the 67-year-old that did it, were regulars on that, and we were probably the 2 best performers in the last summit, especially in terms of performance, pace, breath work, and also the least pain and least injury. right? So I do highly recommend the Tuesday workouts. Of course, you don't have to do them live. You can do them on catch up, but the design of them is that we isolate left leg from right leg. The way most of us go through life and the most of the loads and training we do, both legs start to form interdependency. The way we've designed our Tuesday workouts are to isolate one leg at a time. So you're working on strengthening left leg on its own versus right leg on its own. We work on your hamstrings, we work on your shins, we work on your quads, we work on your calves, and we work specifically on your glutes. Most people don't realize how significant glute development, which is your booty, is responsible for good performance in hiking. It's going to help with good posture and reduce strain on our knees if we have really good glute development. So I just want to add that there, and thanks for sharing your concerns. Dharmi?
The first challenge is finding the raise your hand button and the unmute button.
You've overcome that.
Exactly. What could possibly go wrong? So just to introduce myself, I'm Dharmi. I'm in London. I have a mother of two. I have a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, soon to be 4. I'm going to be doing this by myself, so my husband's going to be with the kids. So I guess, some of the things that could go wrong, like revolve around the family situation and just making sure they're all taken care of, and everything's in place for them when I'm away. And of course, parents and, my in-laws are always, that's always on my mind as well. You can never, things that you just can't have control over, I guess. But yeah, those are some of the things I think on my mind at the moment. But, we'll do everything we possibly can to put things in place, right, before I go.
Awesome. Thanks, Dharmi. And who are you doing this with? You're doing it with some family?
Yeah. So I have family here, just to disclose. I have my sister who is a part of this leadership team, Hina. Shout out to you. And in fact, I've got lots of family here now, people I've become family, in fact, over the course of the last year, and joining lots of FITBANKER treks. So, shout out to Shaq there, Zarina Auntie. I met some of you actually already. So Ash, Manjeet, met quite a few of you, haven't I? My cousin Alpa is also joining. So, feeling the family vibes already.
Awesome. Where's Alpa? She's not on this call today.
She's not on today. She'll be listening to the recording.
Awesome. And are you not bringing your 6-year-old to join us?
Not this year. He's following very avidly. So, he never know. He and Kanaya may be in it together in a couple of years' time.
Awesome. All right, cool. Amir, let's have your share. And you're on mute. Please unmute. Welcome all, and please introduce yourselves. And I've also added a second question there for anybody to respond to as well. So please raise your hand if you have a response to that one in particular. Amir?
Hi, yeah, I'm Amir. I'm in London. I'm also related to a few people on this call, I think. But my question about, I guess the main worry is I'm asthmatic. And it's not so much the fitness, because I guess that can be trained. But it's more the altitude that I'm curious about learning more about.
Awesome. So I don't know if that is something that you're concerned about or that's something that you're bragging about, because asthmatics perform better at altitude. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, what we have to be really responsible for is to reduce anything that will aggravate or agitate some form of irritation. But lung capacity wise, statistically speaking, asthmatics perform better. I don't want to encourage the second bit, but also smokers perform better because their lungs have been used to performing with reduced number of aerials as a smoker. But as an asthmatic, we had an asthmatic on the last one. We've had asthmatics on all of them. I think maybe Dia was, or maybe now that is disappeared from a subconscious.
Yeah, Dia was asthmatic at the time.
I am asthmatic.
And the only thing I say is if and when you're asthmatic, all you do is bring us about 3 or 4 of your inhalers. And what we do is we keep one with the guide nearest to you, we keep one with the main guide, we keep one with me, and we'll have 2 on you. So if you need that, but it's not a concern. But thanks for letting us know. We will have a form, a little bit of a KYC form that everyone needs to complete before we go out. And we want to know of any medical conditions, any allergens, any dietary requirements. So we'll gather that data a bit closer to us going out.
Okay, yeah, appreciate that. Thanks.
Awesome. And so are you Shaq's cousin?
Nephew.
Nephew. All right. Awesome. Welcome. Lovely to have you join. We then missed having you on the weekend with us.
Yeah, sorry I couldn't make that.
All right, no worries. But welcome. There'll be more trucks coming, and we're early on in the game. Okay, cool. So anyone want to respond to what could possibly go wrong in training? Harinder and Manjeet, you guys want to introduce yourselves and maybe respond to these questions? And anyone else that wants to respond to either of these? Yep. We want to empty our tank of concern, because those concerns, when we sit on them, they grow with inflation and interest. So Harinder?
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name's Harinder, and this is Manjeet. And this is the first Kili trek that we're doing. As far as social media is concerned, you'll find us on Instagram, and we call Sing Plus Core. We come as a pair, and we do everything together. So you may have seen that already. We're so excited to be part of the FITBANKER family. There's a lot of people that we already know, and then we're gonna meet and make new friends over the coming year. So my question is similar to the person who asked the question earlier. Is about altitude sickness. Now, I do get migraines. So when I was running yesterday, I was chatting to a guy, and he was saying that you could take Diamox.
Yeah.
So if you could talk about medication for headaches.
Yeah.
That would be good. Thanks.
Okay, cool. So Diamox, or what's called acetazolamide, which is the medical term. Diamox is just a brand name. I've put it in the chat. Is something that was popularized by people that used to deal with migraines, but it was used mainly for high altitude. There is a 50-50 on the research that's out there. Some people say it makes zero difference. Some people say it has a placebo effect. And some people say it's a game changer for them in performing better at altitude. The first 6 summits we did without any Diamox. No one in the crew took any Diamox. And on the 6th summit or the 5th summit, when we went out with Jag and Dia, we found another Australian couple, elderly. They would start after us. They were overtaking us. They were performing well. They were coming down in time. And I went over to their tent one day. We caught up at one of the campsites, and I was like, guys, you must be like regular avid trekkers. How long have you been doing this for? And they looked like in their 60s or 70s. And so they said, no, this is our first one. We've not done that. We've just been on Diamox. They started us on Diamox 3 or 4 days before. I was like, oh, really? And I thought that was a distinction in their performance. So the following year, we took Diamox, and it was 100% summit rate for us. We thought that I experienced from that particular team, there was less pain, there was less altitude sickness, there was less diminished performance. So we have been recommending it since. The last summit we've just come from that we've done, or the last 2, we didn't have, the last 2 summits, we didn't have Diamox again. And we were only giving it to selective people and starting it when we saw some form of symptoms. So my dad, as an example, was in Diamox from day 1. On this last one, we gave it to certain people pre-summit night, 2 days before. We have had a lady who was a doctor. She might be joining us again, Dr. Kripali, and she got pulmonary edema, which is, there are 2 things that can be fatal on the mountain. One is called cerebral edema, swelling of the brain. The other one is pulmonary edema, where your lungs get inflamed, start to build up water, they impact your breathing, and you could die. And she got pulmonary edema. As a doctor, she felt, I can read myself, I'm fine to carry on. But we had to make the call on her. Eventually, she got hospitalized for 2 nights. She had Diamox as well, from early on in the climb. It didn't really significantly turn things around for her. So the answer is, it may or it may not. What I would suggest you do is, if you do regularly deal with migraines, then start taking Diamox on those days when you're going for a big run. at this altitude. It makes no difference altitude-wise at this altitude, but it might increase what's called your red blood cell performance in the way it takes in oxygen. And so if you find it starts to reduce your migraine quicker, then it's good to have. It's not a painkiller, and so you could still take it alongside any other migraine medication that you normally take, like ibuprofen or such painkillers with Diamox. You can take them together and see if it improves or betters the condition for you. So the biggest cure or prevention of altitude sickness is additional acclimatization. So we can do this mountain, all of us can do this mountain in 4 days, but we will, majority, 60 to 70% of us will have altitude sickness, and maybe 50% won't summit, but we're doing it in 7 days. So we have 2 extra acclimatization days specifically to address that. We use a climbing approach called climb high, sleep low. So in the daytime, we're going to go up 600-700 meters in altitude. We will taste what the world feels like at that altitude. We will eat at that altitude. We'll go from 3.8 one day straight to 4.6. We will eat there. We will pee there. We will decompress there. We will drink water. We will breathe. We will relax, and then we will come back down and sleep at 3.9. So that day we'll just make a 100-meter gain, but we will have gone past those clouds at a certain level and come back down to allow the body to acclimatize. Some of the mountains in the world have very poor acclimatization routes. Like if you've done Machu Picchu or Rainbow Mountain, they have very poor acclimatization. So if someone has done those and you felt a challenge there, that does not mean you're going to face a challenge on Kilimanjaro, because we've designed the route differently. We've spaced it out to increase your chances of summit success.
Great, thanks, Ronnie.
Cool, you're welcome. And the other thing with Diamox or cetizolamide is it's also a diuretic, so you will pee quite a lot. So the max anyway you should take is 1 tab a day, or sometimes half a tab a day. So if we do get people on the mountain, we make a call judging on your first day or 2 days performance. We see if you need it or not. Some of you guys will give us a lot of confidence, and it's not necessary that it will turn around your performance, but what will really give you good performance is training and starting early. And you could start training in the 4 months, 5 months, 6 months before Kili, and that will be ample. And there are some people that 3 months of training is adequate. So I really want to share that now, because 3 months in, if you do no training and you think these guys all started in September, October, you will start to deal with some kind of FOMO in your head that you're being left behind. And that's not something you want to build on yourself. Okay, let's get Jigna to share. Jigna, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Jigna from Boston. I'm doing this adventure for myself to get uncomfortable with a comfortable lifestyle. And I've pretty much stopped playing and taking risk in my life since kids have, joined us. So the reason for doing the Kili is that what could go wrong? Pretty much very similar to what Dharmi shared earlier, leaving the kids and behind for the first time, putting everything in place, but there could be, few things that will go wrong, and it will be out of control from my end when I'm not there. In terms of what could go wrong with the training, so I've got a little fear right now that if I'm going to be, I do join your workouts, Ronnie, but I'm not very consistent with it because I get a lot of soreness, and the fear is, what if I get injured if I push myself to do one extra set? So it's a process to overcome that slowly, but try to be more consistent right now, I guess. So, and yeah, that's pretty much it. And right now, family in London is going through a little bit of challenges. So there's a little concern, what if I need to cancel at the very last moment? But I'm trying to keep a positive mind that, things will work out with time, and I just need to let the universe do its thing, and I keep my priorities and focus with this goal here.
Okay, cool. A lot of tests, trials, tribulations will come along the way in our journey, right? And what we want everybody to get in life is to overcome the mountain, to build the house, to get the new job, to start your business, to have a child is an event, or to climb the mountain is an event independent of other circumstances in life. Most of us subconsciously collapse these so that we can subconsciously take us out of the world of performance, because it brings us back to familiar, safe, and certain. We're going into a mountain where no next day is like the last day. So every day is the new day. And no next day is your energy levels is not a diminished level based on your fatigue. Your fatigue is not cumulative. If you recharge each night, we can create a whole fresh new person the next day to go and do that day's task. So we process each day as it goes. And this will teach you also how we process life, right? So if you think you're building a house, you're moving job, you're taking care of a family concern, and you can't do all of these at time, you're giving into the man-made myth of time as a limiting belief. I'm inviting all of you guys to really discover how you will perform differently in this world. Right now, all I'm saying, and everything I'm saying, I show you, will be processed very theoretically. These are just concepts right now. But when you're on the mountain, you will begin to see how what I'm saying now applies to your otherworldly areas, and you'll begin to see how you get to cause result in all those other areas regardless. The thing I would say to you, Jigna, when it comes to training, and anyone that has a concern that, oh, if I do one more set or one more rep, and will I get injured? You must know that training for Kilimanjaro is not one where you have to train like the Olympics of CrossFit, the CrossFit Games. You're not training for a marathon. Training for a marathon, training for the Olympic Games, training for CrossFit Games, training for heavy lifting is a different type of training. The training for a hike is hiking. So the more we can put a backpack on, load it up, and go for a walk and wear our boots and allow 5 or 6 or 7 hours of time to pass, and we're just walking, that's the best training you can do. And if there's incline, there's incline. If there's stair climbing you can do, you want to do stair climbing. However, there is one thing I will say from a body composition perspective. We'll reiterate this more the next one, but the higher a fat percentage we have, it just means you're carrying more body load than your own backpack alone, in addition to your backpack. And I've done this as a very overweight guy with 32 extra kilos of my body on me, and I've done it without those 32 kilos on me. And I've experienced the difference significantly, because my lungs have to pump to fuel parts of my body that now aren't on me anymore. And so there is less drain on our organs, less strain on our organs if we have a lower fat percentage. So we will talk about this a bit more this year. And we have taken very overweight and obese people on this summit. So when it comes to training, in terms of training, we want to focus on everyone that's here. Are you within optimal body composition, right? I'm speaking to all of us. Are you within optimal body composition? The closer you are to optimal, the better your performance. Still, it's not a guarantee of performance. Like Martina Navratilova did not make it to the top, right? An athlete of that caliber did not make it. So we will talk about that as we go through the technical stuff. Manjeet, let's have your intro and anything you want to share and get out the way. I'm just mindful of time, so I'm going to cruise over the next couple slides. Manjeet, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm Manjeet and I'm from London, and I suppose I signed up. I've only got to know FITBANKER this year. So I feel a little bit uncomfortable because I'm not as acquainted with all of you who've known each other for years and, you know, done things together. But and I'm a little bit fearful as well. I am scared, and I think one of the things that scares me is my physical health. Will I be up to it? And my emotional health. And yeah, I suppose I need to get, you know, I need to know, do I need to get a personal trainer? What do I need to do? Because I don't want to sort of get there and think, oh, I didn't do that and I should have done that. I think that's my biggest fear, that I've set myself up to do this and I don't do that, you know.
All right, awesome. Well, look, training for this is what will better physical health and emotional health. And to get a myth out the way, there are many people here who don't know many people here. But it might occur to you like, oh, all these guys know each other. It was only, that's what occurred. It occurred like from the 2 or 3 people that shared, that happened to know others here. There are many people here who are also as new or newer FITBANKers who have joined after you and don't know anybody else on screen. So you're not alone in that position. but that's our promise. One of the promises we have on this mountain is that we start off as strangers and we complete as one mountain family. And that is one of the things we can almost guarantee on this mountain. So what I would say about your physical and your emotional, do the training and follow the training plan by design, and also just show up on the webinars. Whenever you get any concern, when any form of self-sabotage kicks in, reach out to one of the truck leaders or to me, and we get you back on track. Like I say, we've had people, you can sign up 3 months before. It is a normal time for us to have somebody sign up. You guys have much of a head start. And the thing you want to be mindful of is not to overtrain. Don't overtrain at least this side of the year. Just take it lightly and leisurely, in line with what you're normally used to. And then the big stuff we'll bring next year as well. So thanks for sharing those concerns. I'm just mindful of time, Harinder. I'll get your share in a second. But here's an invite for you guys to look at. What could go wrong with our trek leaders? Even Ronnie has to have a contingency plan. What happens if I have an issue with my knee or my ankle or something like that? And we also have a contingency plan for that. Who will come and cover me? And also, if I am personally not there, what caliber of actual ground truck leaders are. The truck leaders that you have in the UK, like Hina, like Shaq, like Jag, are not truck leaders for the mountain. So I just want to reiterate that. They're not going to play the role of a truck leader or a guide on the mountain. They're leading the leadership experience. They will be part of the leadership experience that you go through, but they won't have the acclimatization and the physical resilience. They may, but it wouldn't be wise of them to use it that way, to feel obliged to take care of you on the mountain in that manner. In fact, we've seen people have their summit at cost, where they lose out on summiting because they tried to be the person carrying your bag, helping you here, doing this on Kilimanjaro when they shouldn't have. So it's important that also, to manage expectations, you understand that in the UK, in Kenya, any other training tracks that we do, those mountain leaders with FITBANKER are guides and leaders there. But on Kilimanjaro, we've got a different level of people to deal with that. People are a lot more acclimatized, live at the base and go up and down a lot more frequently. So they will bring a different skill set to that. So there is also no reliance and dependence on us as leaders, other than the delivery of the leadership content. And each day has a particular theme. We'll talk about that as we go on. But 50% of all leadership is showing up, and that's you guys here. I want to give you a rough sketch of the year. This was only to say, so that nobody feels, hey, we've heard nothing, and what should we do? Where should I start? Between now and Christmas, between now and year end, and if you already did the trek done, then you've done 1 out of 3. We're inviting you to do 3, at least 3 12 to 15 kilometer treks by year end. That's all. So if you were with us on Saturday, you just got to do 2 more. That's all. That's all. Between 12 to 15 kilometers. If they have hills, ideal, but ideally you want these to be done in your boots, in your hiking boots. You want to get used to doing these in your hiking boots, not trainers. You can do your trainers for other training, daily 5 to 10K walks that you want to do, 3 to 5 kilometers a day. We say we have that minimum amount of movement daily. Webinar 1, which we will also have in January, is going to be this December, and also in January 2023, is really about creating the technical content. It's the beginning of the transformational leadership summit experience. And so that's where we're really going to go into the mindset stuff and the context creation. Next year, what I want you all to plan is 6 big treks. Now, have we had people show up on the mountain having done 1 or 2 mountains or 2 hikes before Kilimanjaro? Yes, we have. That's how I did it in 2014. I did a mountain in Kenya called Mount Longonot, and then I did a 5K run on the tarmac, and I went up the mountain. And with one of the guys I did Longonot with, we were drunk one day, and while I was drunk, I had him sign up to Kilimanjaro, and he didn't do anything else. And he's the guy that fell in well at day 1, and he went up the mountain and he got to summit. What's the difference, though, in training versus not training? It's just harder. It's a lot more painful. It's a lot less enjoyable. So we want to give you guys the most enjoyment. We want to give you guys the increased the best chances of summit success. We want you to reach summit in your best shape possible, because there are many people who reach summit and they have migraines, they have headaches, they're throwing up, and they have a condition called hypoxia, which is less oxygen reaching the brain. They get very paranoid and they need to just run down. And what we want you to do is to be in your best state. You can get your best summit photo and you can pose like Hina there. Or maybe if you guys are really good, we'll stay there and go for a world record attempt of the world's highest Bhangra class or something like that, if there's anybody here who can just Bhangra. So that's what's possible at Summit if we get there in a good state. But for that good state, for you to be physically and mentally prepared, you want to have at least 6 big treks in 2023. And those of you in Kenya, we're talking of something like a Longonot or Elephant Hills. Those of you in the UK, we're talking of Brecon or Snowdon, not even Ben Nevis. If you did Ben Nevis, it's a bonus, but Snowdon and specifically Brecon is probably one of the best trainings. To do that twice between this year and next year is good enough training. If you can do one in the winter, it will give you a real sense of weather and terrain. And Brecon weather at the top when it's snowing and windy is worse than Kilimanjaro. So if you go through Brecon at that altitude, you'll find Kilimanjaro a bit calmer, right? Hopefully. There are times you can get 30-mile-per-hour winds in Kilimanjaro, but that would be an extreme in that area. Mostly it's 10 kilometers per hour, 12 kilometers, 15 kilometers per hour winds, not very, very strong winds. Boots is very important that you know for Kilimanjaro, wearing 2 socks and your feet are going to swell over the days. So we need to make sure you're buying 1 size bigger boot. So if you've had a boot that you're training with here that works in the cold climate, that works with a single layer sock, it's not going to work for Summit. So please try to buy, that's the first piece of gear we recommend people get, and get something comfortable. If you find it's too hard for you, of course, hard leather ones, they take 4 or 5 wears before they break into them. Otherwise you get a kind of cloth-based one. As mentioned earlier, no FOMO feeling of being left behind. If you miss out on some of these webinars, or if you think I haven't done anything in 2022 and it's January and you're like, okay, I've got to get started now. No one's left behind. We're all on our own journey and we're all working against ourselves alone. And then, like I say, leverage your Kili leaders. You know the names now, and you know who's coming with us. If you need to get an emotional or mental blocker out the way, let's get that out the way. Before I wrap up and go on the next slide, just the last slide, I just want to check, Harinder or Manjit, is there a question?
No, you've answered it about the treks that we're going to be doing in 23. So thanks.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. So 4 treks is adequate, but 6 is good. So I just want to now give you guys a sense of how this is going to work as a transformational leadership summit. This is a trailer of what we're looking at in December and January. So, but I'm giving you a head start, to start to speculate, to start to open up your mind. Kilimanjaro is a gym. Kilimanjaro is the gym where you're going to train for the hurdles that you face in life. So think about that now. You will learn on Mount Kilimanjaro that if I want to transform this area of my life, and you're faced with a storm, you're faced with a partner that's unsupportive, you're faced with somebody screaming down your face, you're faced with a particular type of government or the economy that's tanking, or you're faced with a global pandemic, or you're faced with, whatever the world or universe has thrown at you, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And on the mountain, what you learn is you see us leave a camp, you start walking through the rain, you get hailstorms and hailstone coming in your face. We don't always have this weather. In fact, we didn't have it in the last 2 summits. We had very good weather in the last summit. It was sun all day, and Hina's as well was epic weather. And you're just going ahead. And as you're going ahead, what you see is the campsite that you left behind gets packed up behind you, and you see the porters and the guides carry all those tents and luggage and food and going ahead of you. Now, what that teaches us about life is that we can't go back on the mountain, because they've packed up that last campsite. There's just barren land and rock there. And so you can see your home moving ahead to the next stage. So regardless, whatever the storm, the cold, the wind, or the heat, we are going to learn how to carry on moving so slowly forward, or pole pole, as we say in Swahili. and we will still get ahead to the next camp. Some of us might reach a particular campsite at 3 p.m. and you find that your teammate comes in there at 6 p.m., right? Or we get there at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and the teammate comes in at 9 p.m. Not ideal to have that much of a gap, yet it may happen, and it will happen for a team this large. But we have the right support team on the ground. We have the right support team. Nobody's coming on their own. Nobody will ever be left behind, and nobody, we haven't yet lost anyone on the mountain. Nobody should get lost on the mountain. And so you will have guides and porters around you. So what is this wheel of life? This wheel of life is, I just want you guys to speculate. I'm going to leave you with this, and then we're going to wrap up. If there's any questions, we'll take them. I acknowledge we've gone over a few minutes, but I did spend a little bit extra just welcoming you all. We're looking at our life in the areas of business and career. How the wheel of life works is you rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. Where are you on the scale of 1 to 10? Are you a 7.5? Where are you in the world of finances? Are you a 5 or a 6? Where are you in the world of love or health or personal growth or fun and recreation? I want you to think of all the various areas of your life. It doesn't have to be in this exact format with these exact headings, but think about the areas of your life and think about where do you fare on a scale of 1 to 10. And any of the areas that you're a 3, a 2, a 4, a 5, or a 6. We're going to ask you to just pick one area. Pick one area for purposes of this mountain. You will find it will transform multiple other areas. How we perform in any one area is kind of how we perform in all other areas once you develop a certain level of leadership. So you can screenshot this or you can watch the recording again. And I want you to start to look at ranking yourself. Like, where am I for me in the area of health? I'm an 8 or a 9 for me in the area of health. Where am I with personal growth? I'm probably a 7, 8, or a 9. All right. Where am I with fun and recreation? Again, probably a 7, 8, or a 9. Where am I with my finances? Probably a 5 or a 6. Where am I with my romance? Is my wife here? Let me check. No, I'm just kidding. So I won't rank that one. Where am I with family and friends, right? Etc. etc. So you want to give yourself a ranking, and then you want to look at what does that look like out of 10, and have clarity of what that area transformed looks like. If you can't have clarity of what a 10 or a 9 or an 8 looks like in that area, then it's likely we won't get there. It's likely you will never be content with that area of life because you aren't clear what you want it to look like, right? In relationships, have clarity on what you think that looks like, but also who are you being in those relationships, right? This is one relationship we can start to look at how we show up when we go on dates, how we show up when we're looking, how we show up when we are exploring our role in this world. Okay, on that note, I'm going to wrap up there. I just want to seed this. We're going to go into this in more depth. We're going to rank ourselves, and we're going to share a little bit about this in the next webinar. Hina, something you want to add or share, and then we'll take any questions from anyone.
Ronnie, just to clarify, to be on the ground on the 24th, we'll start on the 27th? Or...
Correct. So I just want to, we're about finalizing this with the team on the ground. And what I want to share is we told everyone when it comes to booking, you arrive on the 24th, anytime on the 24th. If you come early in the morning or by lunchtime, you will join us for a supper. You don't need to come on the 23rd. For those of you that have a concern, just in case flights cancel, just in case my bags don't come. The reason we start the summit normally on the 26th is to address that. We allow one day in between for lost baggage, for delays, for somebody coming in late, etc., etc. But if we've given you an arrival date and a departure date, leave anytime on the 3rd, arrive anytime on the 24th.
On that note, there is we can arrange group booking. So I've got somebody who can do group booking flights. So if possible, if anybody wants to join the same Kili group to fly together and fly back out, let me know in the group and we can put you in touch.
Yeah, and those of you that want to do safari, it's going to be returning on the 8th of September. And the one difference we're making, because we're a large group, we're going to spend, normally we have 1 day of leadership training. So day of arrival 24th, 25th is the day of leadership training, and 26th morning we're starting our ascent. And then when we come down on the 1st, we use the 2nd of September for our Seva day. What we're going to do differently this year, so we're just about to make this change, but to you it shouldn't matter so long you know not to leave before the 3rd, is we're going to come down on the 2nd. We're going to do 2 days of team building and leadership training before we go up. One of them is we're going to add a little nice picnic before we go up the mountain, just to get a sense of knowing each other, doing a little bit of stuff on the ground, maybe go to a coffee plantation. Each year, or any summit that we do is not the same. So Jag coming again will have a very different experience, right? Hina coming again will have a very different experience, right? So we want those of you that are coming there, what matters to us is we first have to create community and team, and then as we go up the mountain, the chemistry of the whole experience is very different. We have a camera crew. We're going to have maybe between 4 and 6 camera crew on this summit, and they're making a film of this, and part of them will be capturing and knowing us and our personality and our character in those first 2 days. So we're going to do a little bit of activities and team building work to bring that out, to get us out of our shell, so that Manjit is there and she feels like she knows everyone. This is already a family before we even take the first step on the mountain. So that said, any questions from anyone? Yeah, Abba says, can you share the kind of boots we need to pick up? Have you seen the gear list, Abba?
No.
Okay, there's a detailed gear list. We will reshare that.
It's in the description. It's in the description of the chat.
Okay. I'll look at that.
Yeah, can I just check, Hina? Did you add the? There was a new list of recommended boots that I'd shared with Sarika and Rishi when they signed up, where I gave many more examples of those boots.
Okay, you need to reshare that one then. Thank you.
I'll reshare that. Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions, guys?
So just to be clear, sorry, Ronnie, we're coming down on the 2nd now.
We're coming down on the 2nd, yeah, so that you depart on the 3rd.
Okay, and so that Seva day that we normally do is before we go up as part of the
correct.
leadership.
So we're basically going to see if we can visit that school before.
Yeah.
Just as part of our relaxing, unwinding. The city itself is at 1500, so we get used to it. We may not also do that particular deaf center, so I'll discuss that with you guys later. But we are looking instead at we'll potentially have to speak to people on the ground, launching one of the guides as a social enterprise. He has a business idea he's been wanting to do, and I think if we can empower an entrepreneur, that entrepreneur can empower more people than a charity that's dependent on charity. But we'll talk about it later.
And so the normal, like the celebration for dinner, that'll be on the 2nd as well then in the evening.
Correct.
Cool.
And the party and the clubbing and all that stuff. And on the 3rd, then we can start off. Whoever's going for safari will go early on the 3rd.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks.
All right. Any other questions, guys? Anything else anyone wants to share or say before we wrap up?
Yeah, Ronak, just quickly, I think I mentioned earlier, but it might not be related. Because I do suffer from seasickness. Is that very different from the altitude sickness?
Yeah, sorry, I saw that question. I forgot to respond, and the answer is no relationship. Yeah. So there's no relationship at all. We've had others who've had that. Actually, that's an interesting question. That lady that had that concern didn't summit, but I don't think it was connected to altitude. But I'm going to look that up. But I know when we were told this before, we looked it up. There was no relatedness. But I just, for full disclosure's sake, I remember the lady that once raised that with us. She didn't go beyond day 3, but she didn't have altitude sickness. For her, she was just fatigued, and later there was some misunderstanding, communication between her, the doctor, and a guide, and at altitude we heard she asked to come down, and later we were told that she felt that the doctors told her to come down, which, there was some breakdown in communication, happens sometimes with hypoxia and being snappy and short, but what she didn't enjoy was the camping, and that compromised her sleep and other things, but no relatedness. Okay, Hina saying she suffers from seasickness and she was okay on the mountain. All right, cool. on that note, guys, if there's no further questions, we will wrap up. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to seeing you all. We might try and sneak in, look out on the chat for an impromptu trek before I disappear back to Zambia. As it's getting cold and nippy, it's a good time for us in the UK to trial out our weather. And we might get a wet, windy day, which does not mean it's a bad trek. It means it's good training. So we will let you know if there's an impromptu trek that we can do in the next couple of weeks, and we will see you when we see you. Bye for now. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.